Hey guys, it's Ali here, and I was driving on the highway from upstate New York back to Boston, and I literally had to pull over and record this video because I had such an epiphany that I need to share with you guys, and it's about risk. And I was having a conversation last night with one of my friends from high school, and we were talking about like why he was doing also really well. He studied engineering, I studied engineering, we're both doing really well. And we were talking, I was asking him why we're both doing really well, and we were reflecting on that. And he said, well, Ali, think about it. Not many people are willing to take the risks you do. And thus, not many people are end up with the same results. And I thought about that very deeply because in my head, it's always been the complete opposite. Like what most people look at me doing and perceive as risky, to me is the safe choice, because the thing about risk is if you assess risk in the short term versus the long term, it becomes quite the opposite. And what I mean by that is whatever is risky in the short term is usually safe in the long term. And whatever is risky in the long term is safe in the short term. And for most people, like taking a safe path, like let's say getting a stable degree that's like based on something that's hot and in demand, and getting a job with a 4-year degree and just like sticking to that and just I don't know, like to them that seems safe because it's a well proven path. But that's only safe in the short term. In the long term, what happens if things change? I'll give you an example. There's a lot of people who study engineering and just, I don't know, like cheat on exams or whatever, or just kind of get through a degree or know someone, and they go and get like a really nice job, or even like, let's say they actually do it ethically and they do things pretty well or whatever, and then they get a job, and then they get laid off in 2 years. And then they're screwed because they have like no other skills. And the only skill they knew how to like figure out is how to like take exams, pass, and get a job at Facebook or whatever. And to them, what was safe in the short term is actually now suddenly in the long term. On the opposite of that, someone like me or somebody who's willing to take more risk in the short term, for example, there's many times where I turned down jobs that seemed safe, and I've turned down many opportunities that seemed very safe and well proven. And instead, I go for much riskier endeavors, such as like starting my own projects, or in this case, for example, starting a YouTube channel, or starting my own company on the side, or doing a PhD. These are all very risky things in the short term. But in the long term, they're much safer, because to me, the riskiest thing I could do is put myself in a situation where I'm taking as little risk as possible. In the long term, like the world is changing very rapidly. And if you don't have in my opinion, if you don't have a stack of skills that are very well diversified and are well integrated, and if you don't have a sharp mind that has and a set of eyes that's constantly looking out for opportunities and is constantly jumping into better opportunity vehicles that make the most out of what you have, if you're not doing that, that is very risky. But the problem is, in order to do that and to develop these skill sets, that requires you to take a lot of decisions in the short term that do seem risky. And everything I'm doing for the next 5 to 10 years is very high risk, but my hypothesis is that 30 to 40 years, I'll be at very low risk. And again, I use the layoff example because I never, ever want to be at risk of getting laid off. Like, I don't know about you guys, but to me, one of my biggest fears, my deepest, like I would rather die than experience type of thing, is getting laid off. And someone coming to me and saying, hey, sorry, you're not needed. So what does that motivate me to do? It motivates me to go stack up my skills so much so that I'm never, ever in a situation where I can be let go of easily. And what does that also force me to do? It forced me to constantly look for the opportunities where I can constantly see that there's an insane demand and limited supply, and the supply is limited because not many people are willing to do the hard work to actually fill that supply. And I go and I do that. And I go and I work hard at that. I work 10, 12, 14 hours a day at it relentlessly. And because that is the less risky thing to do in the long term. In the short term, it's riskier because I just go get a safe job and, I don't know, get married and have a nice little family and do that early on. I'm not saying that I do want these things in the long term, but yeah, if you're not taking risks, that's the riskiest thing you can do. And I'll end with that. Peace, love.